Airbnb is about to leave the Chinese market at the end of July 2022, after around 7 years of trying to be successful there. Officially, the reason given is that the zero COVID policy is making it impossible for them to remain, together with some regulatory changes. However, as the local competition seems to be doing quite well and domestic travel hasn't been hit as badly as many other markets around the world, then it would seem that it's more the fact that there are no foreigners who can come into China right now, and Airbnb has failed to crack into domestic tourism. The company's often been praised actually for their localization, but a lot of this was only on the surface, to be honest. They improved the interface of their app and the look of the search function to meet more Chinese taste. They also added a local map function because, of course, Google doesn't work in China. Then in 2019, the name was changed to AirBnB, but this was criticised by consumers as being too little too late, it wasn't snappy, and it didn't have any deeper hidden meaning, so it just seemed like a box-ticking exercise to many Chinese consumers. Airbnb really struggled to adapt to the needs and desires of the Chinese consumers, as well as to recognise what the customer journey is and to adapt fast enough to that and to react to what consumers really wanted. From the beginning, Chinese people were a little wary of homestays or sharing their home with a stranger. They're more used to making package trips and not such DIY trips as maybe we do in Europe or in the US. So to break through that, it would have been necessary to build a lot of trust. Another factor is that, for example, many Chinese, they don't want to take care of chores if they're staying somewhere. So taking out the trash at the end of a trip isn't something that they would find very appealing if they're used to 5-star hotels. Tujia, who's the market leader and who has 10 times more listings than Airbnb, manages this because they manage the properties themselves and offer cleaning services or equivalent services to those that a 5-star hotel would offer. This makes things much more appealing to the Chinese, and they're often renting villas or apartments out which otherwise would be standing empty rather than renting out a spare room. Airbnb didn't recognise how Chinese consumers want to have their customer support. For Airbnb, it had to go via the app and then be forwarded to landlords, which was really slow and clunky, whereas the expectation was of instant messaging, everything very seamless. Tujia, for example, they published the phone numbers of the landlords so that consumers could directly WeChat message them, and this worked far better. It wasn't just the customer service that failed to build trust. The customer journey simply wasn't localized enough, and it wasn't until 2018 that Airbnb actually integrated Alipay and WeChat Pay functionality into their app. When they did this, sales grew by 15%. So they simply had failed to recognise this key factor that could have been implemented several years earlier. Of course, the regulatory environment in China is challenging. With any new fields, then they're often not really regulated at first, and then when the government sees how they might develop, regulations come. The company's been criticised as well for sharing data about clients with the Chinese government. However, that is a general law that any place that is acting as a hostelry of any kind, so hotels, B&Bs, that kind of thing, they have to register guests with the authorities. This is not unique to China, it happens in a lot of countries. So some key learnings here would be thoroughly research how your customer journey looks. What are the customer preferences in the market that you're entering into? And don't assume that you can just transfer culture and strategies one-to-one from your domestic market to any foreign markets. If you want to expand internationally, subscribe to my YouTube channel and sign up for my weekly newsletter and blog post at the link in the comments.